Hello, welcome to the Saluki Gamescast. This is episode 30 for December 2nd, 2022. My name is... That is the most excited anybody has ever been about December 2nd. My name is Justin Young. Joining me, as always, is Alicia Utecht. Hey, Alicia, how are you?
I am hanging in there. You know, it's that time of the semester. But
It is always that time of the semester.
It really is. But very excited because since I'm doing my Kleinau show this week, I brought a special guest along, my older sister, Amelia.
Hi.
Hey, Amelia, how are you?
I'm doing good. I'm enjoying myself.
How are you enjoying Carbondale?
So far, so good.
All right. Well, you at least got a good show to see last night.
Oh, yeah.
So
It's really
Tonight
good.
and tomorrow.
It's really good.
I guess we should talk about that right now. Alicia's show, we've mentioned it in previous podcasts, but last night was the public premiere of your
Yes.
show and everything. So obviously you were there, but Amelia and I were also there.
Yup.
Are you sure I was there? Are we positive?
I don't know. I did see Zoe in the box office, and I said, that's awfully nice of you to give Alicia the night off so she can actually prepare. You're usually there in the box office. So,
Yep. I know I love my students, my 201 students, because I teach a performance class this semester, and they have to go to 2 Kleinau shows and write papers about them.
right.
And so normally I'm like, well, you know, just if you don't have your student ID, it's okay because I know you, so I know to give you the student price. But then for this one, I'm like, I won't be in the box office. You really need to remember your student ID if you want that extra $2 off.
Well, I mean, I will say Zoe hit me up for my student ID when I went through.
Oh,
From the little bit that I met her, I could absolutely believe that.
yeah.
She seems fun.
She's fabulous.
But so tell us a little bit about the show. I mean, you've mentioned it previously, but
Yeah.
since it's actually happening, it's still happening tonight and tomorrow night, Friday and Saturday. So give us, your pitch of the show.
Yeah, so the show is titled Fangirl, Fandoms, Feminism, and Strong Female Characters. And what I do throughout it is I go through a lot of, spoiler alert, the strong female characters. Real hard to guess, right? But a lot of those characters who have influenced me over the years, I didn't really grow up looking up to like celebrities or anything like that. I grew up looking up to all these characters. And so
You did?
I know, what a weird thing. So throughout the show, I go through specific events in my life and kind of specific feelings that I've dealt with and how these characters have been present in that, whether through helping me through it or just being present in the back of my mind or my perspective on them shifting, whatever it might be.
Yeah, and there's some fun discussion of comic books and fan fiction and all these different things. And we were talking some of that about fan fiction before we started recording today. It's a fun show. If you're the type of person who's into, and pardon the term, but geeky or nerdy type interest, comic books and fan fiction.
If you're listening to this podcast, you probably are.
Right.
True.
If you're the type of person who listens to a video game podcast, this might be perfect for you.
Sadly, I could not fit. I never got to write a section on Tifa and Aerith, but
I saw that they were on your original poster, and I
They
was
were
like,
on
why
my
are they
vision
not
board.
in it?
they were on my vision board, but couldn't get Tifa and Aerith, couldn't get, the female player characters from Pokemon, couldn't get Amy Rose.
Oh, no. Amy Rose is awesome, okay?
She was never going to be in the show, though.
No, I know she wouldn't. I know. But Aerith and Tifa were on your board, so I was like, oh, that would have been cool.
It would have been neat to get them, but
Yeah, there's actually a lot of strong female characters. I mean, that's one thing that kind of comes out of it, that there's a great, and no spoilers, but there's a great deal of diversity in those characters today versus, when a lot of women were growing up.
yeah, like when we were growing up, the strong female character was the one who had super short hair and cussed like a sailor and knew all the weapons and all the fighting and didn't give a crap about anybody or anything. Like, it was a lot of toxic masculinity traits put onto a character who was female. And that was the strong female character a lot of the time when I was growing up. And so
It was the problem of the writer's room was still dominated by men, so it was men writing those female characters as basically men.
yeah, they were dudes with boobs. That was the strong female character that I grew up with. And I bought into that for a long time. And then really, I would say probably within the last 7 years have kind of recognized a lot of how that led to a lot of internalized misogyny. And no, like, more feminine traits like being gentle are also strength.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think the show does a good job of addressing that within the context of the show. And so it's very entertaining. It is $5 for students, $7 for people off campus and everything. To
Cash
come in.
only. The client can only take cash or check. Please don't show up with a credit card. We can't take it.
Johnny and I were having a conversation about that last night. So, yeah.
Have people tried to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, people don't carry cash nowadays. And
Oh,
so,
I know, but I was just wondering if
yeah.
that was not common knowledge.
Oh, it should be common knowledge. We advertise it all the time, but people still forget, which, it happens, but
Yeah.
Right. But it is a good show. It's worth your time to go see. So if you are in Carbondale and you're listening to this and you need some entertainment, some cheap entertainment, it is entirely worthwhile to go see.
Cheer for the awesome star.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely cheer for Alicia. You can actually see her in the flesh and know who, if you don't know Alicia, you'll finally get to put a face along with the name.
now I will disappoint all our listeners with this, though. I don't update any controllers during the show.
Oh, it's such a disappointment. And there's no Sonic discussion, which I was extremely disappointed by.
There's no Sonic, there's no Pokemon. I just didn't have time for them. I would have loved, but the show's already long.
I mean, I feel like Big the Cat should be recognized.
Big the Cat is the epitome of female strength.
Yeah, totally. Big the Cat, the #1 strong female character. How could I overlook that?
I'm not sure Big the Cat was originally gendered at all. I think.
I mean, he was created for Sonic Adventure 1 and had a masculine voice. So
Yeah.
I imagine, based on the fact that Sonic Adventure 1 came out in 99, I would think at that time they were like, masculine voice equals male character.
Probably.
Well, and he was voiced by, I think it's John St. John. It's a wrestler. I know that. So they.
John St. John, isn't he the voice of Duke Nukem?
Maybe.
Heck if I know.
That's weird. If he
Yeah.
did the voice of Big the Cat, I
John
never knew
St.
that.
John with the original voice of Big the Cat and Gamma in Adventure 1. And then in Heroes, he did Big again. And he also did Omega.
Okay, now I want to look that up. If Duke Nukem was the voice of Big the Cat, that's really interesting.
It's called voice acting for a reason. Because you're not always going to sound the same.
Yep.
Right, but even still, that's just really two fun characters for him to have done both of.
Oh, yeah, no, his Big is very entertaining.
Yep. That's Duke Nukem.
Oh, wow. That's great. Because Duke Nukem is just like the most reprehensible character possible. And he's just the biggest scumbag in the world. And so the idea that he's also doing the voice of Big the Cat,
Froggy.
the most innocent, sweet character.
The one that's in his own little world over here.
His own little world just happens to get caught up in all the mess.
Don't
and then
care
makes
about any
friends.
of that. He's just looking for Froggy and looking for fishing spots.
Right. It's a character whose biggest trait is that he likes to fish.
Yep.
It's just a fantastic, that's fantastic that he does both those voices. That's cool.
And he's also killer robots, too, in the games, because
Yeah.
Gamma and Omega are both Eggman robots, and Omega loves to destroy other Eggman robots. So he gets to do all sorts of stuff.
Yeah. Very talented. All All right, well, let's move on into what you've been playing. We've been off for a couple of weeks due to Thanksgiving break. So, Alicia, why don't we start with you? What have you been playing recently? Does it involve any Charizards?
Theoretically, yes, but I have not been able to get one. They are doing like a Charizard Terra Raid battle event, but I have yet to figure that out.
That doesn't surprise me, not with how popular Charizard is.
Yeah, but so right before Thanksgiving break, I went to a conference in New Orleans, and then when I got back, that was like my treat to myself for surviving the conference. I went and bought Pokemon Violet. I may or may not have stayed up until 5 a.m. playing it one day. That I have really enjoyed the game. You know, I know there's been some discourse online about it being a glitch fest. I wouldn't call it a glitch fest. I think there's definitely some visual glitches. You know, sometimes like you get done with a battle and your Pokemon's evolving, but the battle was on a bridge, so they're like halfway sticking out of the bridge and you can't see their bottom half. So like there's definitely some glitches. Definitely a lot of the background NPCs are insultingly low frame rate. Like it's Nintendo can do better and should do better on those.
Especially with such a big franchise.
Yeah. But the game itself is so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
So with the 3 different storylines, they have the Victory Road Challenge, which is your traditional go fight the 8 gym leaders and the Elite Four. They have the Starfall Street storyline, which you're going around to the different bases for Team Star, who are the villain team in this game. Villain, quote unquote. And then they have the Path of Legends, where you're going and defeating the giant Titan Pokemon. And one of the things that I think this game in particular does really well is developing the characters in a way that you don't necessarily see in a lot of Pokemon games. You know, a lot of times you're not really there for the NPCs and the player characters, you're there for the Mons. But
And I mean, I would argue the early Pokemon games, there's very little character development. It is very much a...
maybe 1 or 2 characters get some development, but not much and not many.
Yeah.
Right, and it tends to be very minor even at that. So, yeah, I mean, that's not at all what I think of coming from a Pokemon game.
Yeah.
Gary Oak did not grow in blue and red.
Yeah, but I'm trying to think when they started doing more. I think Gen 5 was when they started doing more character development. Like Gen 5 has really solid character development. And then they kind of went backwards a little bit.
And they've done that before. I mean, they had Silver in 2 that he kind of grew.
Yeah.
And then they backtracked.
But even then, like, Silver was a single character.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Was a lot of characters that had better development. But this one really, not only, I think Nimona is probably my favorite rival since Blue, honestly, because she's so much fun. You know, and she is really great in the fact that she's already a champion rank trainer, but when you're battling her throughout, she talks about, like, she's making sure to pick the perfect team for going up against you at this level that you're at. So it's not like in some games where you're fighting against a trainer and you're like, wow, really? Like, you're supposed to be better than this, and you're this easy to beat. Like, she's acknowledging she can do better, but she's matching your skill level.
Mm-hmm.
That is pretty cool.
That is fabulous. That does lead into another problem with the game, with that she's the only one that level scales. So a big part of the pitch for this game was that it's the first open world Pokemon game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, truly open world, go anywhere you want, any order.
Of the mainstream games, the mainline games, because Arceus did that to some degree, right?
Yeah, Arceus had open world layout, but still had a very linear, like, here is your one story that you are following A to B to C. Whereas this one is completely open world in that, okay, you can do this over here with the Victory Road path, but then you can jump over to the Starfall Street and then jump back to Victory Road and then jump over to Path of Legends. Except you really can't. I mean, you can, but the levels of the Titan Pokemon and the levels of the Team Star bosses and the levels of the gym leaders are all set where it's very clear that Nintendo has a specific order they want you to go through this, as opposed to, okay, I'm going to go to Iono's gym, and, her Pokemon are like level 35, regardless of when you get there. But, if I wanted to go to her first, maybe she could have like level 12 Pokemon. If I wanted to go to her 8th, she could have level 60 Pokemon.
Right.
So that's probably my biggest disappointment in the game, is that there's not that level scaling, because they show they can do it through the Nemona battles, but they just don't for anything else, which was disappointing. But I had an absolute blast. I love all of the new Pokemon. I really loved being able to bounce between storylines as I wanted, even with the level scaling issue. I love Arven. Arven starts off as a little brat, and then
Don't sugarcoat it.
as you get through the Path of Legends and you find out more of his backstory and what goes on with him, like, I'm not gonna. I have beaten the game. I'm in post game right now. I'm not gonna spoil the ending of the game, but I will say Arven deserves better.
Better outcome for his story.
Better outcome for his story. Better. He just deserves better. He deserves a better life.
So, do you have a favorite of the new ones?
Oh, we've already talked so much about Farigiraf.
I mean, you and I have, but have they heard about it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Justin forgot to put it on the news when Farigiraf was announced, and I made sure that we talked about Farigiraf.
You and your giraffes, you love them so.
Yeah. I sent a video to our group chat the night that I finally evolved my giraffe rig, and I was like, this is the happiest moment of my life. If I am ever sad again, just remind me that I have 4 hearts with this beautiful creature, and that is all the serotonin I will ever need.
I love it.
I guess you know what to get her for Christmas now. They have a stuffed version. I'm sure there is one.
I'm sure somewhere.
If it's out there, then maybe.
It's probably on Etsy somewhere.
Okay, Etsy, I'd believe.
Someone has made it.
Whether something's official, I'm not 100% sure if that had happened, but
It will eventually, I'm sure.
I'm sure. But yeah, I really love this game. It's a lot of fun. It, like I said, the character development and the story to this game, it's easily one of the best Pokemon stories.
you're making me really wish I had a Switch.
So how does this compare to Arceus? Because that's them trying to do something a little bit different from the traditional mainline Pokemon games. And here we have that's adopting at least some of that design. How do these two games stack up?
I think for me, I like Violet better. I'm very much someone who gets into the characters, and so Arceus is really cool. It does a lot of really great stuff. I love the travel into the past aesthetic, but I think Violet just has so many more characters who are better developed, and like even with the side quests, like the player character is a student at this academy, and so throughout your journey you can go back and like keep taking classes and talking with your teachers and getting to know them. And so really there's just a lot of love that went into developing the characters and giving them all unique personalities and goals that really make this one stand out for me. Whereas with Arceus, you kind of had your standard characters of, okay, here's the helpful rival, here's the professor character, here's the leader. That one had the Diamond Clan and the Pearl Clan, but both of those leaders kind of fill the role that a lot of champions do in a lot of the Pokemon games, where they kind of show up throughout and help you out and then go away and then come back.
Right.
So
Popping in and out.
Yeah, so where Arceus had a lot of like those very standard characters, Violet has some of that in terms of, we have Nimona is the helpful rival. Arvin and Penny are both also kind of filling a similar role to the rival in a lot of ways. But then you also get Professor Churro in Violet and Professor Sada in Scarlet are very different from previous Pokemon professors.
Okay. So maybe that we're still getting the sort of stock roles, but not the stock characters that we've gotten in the past.
Yeah. And like you still have, in this one, I would say like Director Clavel probably fills the role of like Professor Oak, for example, where you have, okay, it's the helpful adult mentor who is there and gives you your starter and all that. But again, just the amount of characters who all have their own unique personalities and story, because a lot of the games, the gym leaders do have their own personality still, but a lot of the gym leaders don't have story. Whereas this one, all of your teachers have personality and story, where you're going back and not only experiencing their classes, but you're getting to know them through little side quests. You're getting to, I'm in post game now, and so I'm going back and refighting all the gym leaders and kind of getting more from them on that as well. I really love this game.
All right, that sounds fantastic. I mean, because it felt like this Pokemon game, putting out two big Pokemon games, two original, right? Neither of these is a remake like last year. It felt like a lot of people going, well, are these going to be enough different? Are they going to, is there a justification for two Pokemon games a year besides the fact that they'll sell a ton of copies?
Yeah. Well, and really we had three, because we had Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl earlier this year too.
The remakes there, yeah.
Didn't that come out the very end of last year? I thought
that was April? Something like that.
Okay.
That was in spring.
Yeah, so I mean, two original games though.
Yeah.
And they've never really done that. Not these traditional styled games. I mean, they do spin-offs like Snap and that sort of thing.
Yeah. But I think it paid off. I think Violet took a lot of what worked in Arceus and kept it up. There are a couple of things from Arceus that I wish would have carried over. Like in Arceus, when your Pokemon reaches the level that they can evolve, it tells you, hey, they can evolve. And then you go in and choose to evolve them. Whereas Violet, Violet maintains like the auto battle system, where if your Pokemon is out of its Pokeball and running around with you, you can just send it to go battle Mons on its own without you having to do anything, which is good in terms of eliminating a lot of the grinding that you have to do in some Pokemon games. But if they level up from that, they won't learn a new move or evolve.
Right.
Ooh, ouch.
And it did carry over from Arceus, where relearning moves is just something you can do automatically. Like, you don't have to go find the move relearner. But it doesn't just be like, hey, he's at level 16 now, he can evolve, so you can go in and evolve him. You have to do another trainer battle or controlled battle and get them to the next level, and then that's when they'll evolve.
Right. Yeah, I imagine they're running into the problem that Madden football and the NCAA football game used to run into, in that they were running off of the same engine, and you were putting both of these games out in the same year, but if something was really terrible in one of them or something was really successful in one of them, there wasn't enough time between the release of both of the games to make those sorts of changes. So it would be a sort of situation where, we'll wait for next year's game or the game 2 years from now, and we can roll those changes into these games. So I feel like probably most of the things that they found out worked really well in Arceus or didn't work at all. It'll be the next mainline Pokemon game that will, take advantage of those.
Yeah. I know I've heard rumors of Pokemon Legends Celebi, so I would imagine that would probably be the next one rather than whenever we get Generation 10.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like they've got both of these. These have both been huge sellers. We'll talk more about that in the news. But yeah, I mean, it seems like they're going to keep running with that.
Celebi honestly makes the most sense for time travel anyway.
Yeah.
Considering that's the whole thing, is that Celebi can time travel.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, all right, Pokemon Violet. Anything else?
That's been the big one. Still playing a little bit of Pokemon Cafe Remix on my phone. So many Pokemon games. New games are expensive. I've got more games on my Christmas list, so hopefully I get some more over winter break and can start adding some variety next semester.
What's your number one game on your Christmas list currently?
Honestly, probably, even though it's not out yet, but the Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core Reunion.
Yeah.
When does that come out?
December 13th.
Oh, okay.
So
it is coming out this year.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
That's the game that I have on my list, too.
Yeah.
All right. So that's it this week?
That's it for me.
All right. Amelia, what have you been playing recently?
I've been playing Sonic Frontiers mostly. I just beat it on Monday, and it was so much fun.
You knew that you were going to get this.
Hey, if we didn't get it from her, we were going to get it from you eventually. So
you knew that Sonic was going to come up, and now you don't even have Ryan and OJ to back you up on teasing about it.
You are outnumbered.
All right, so tell us about Sonic Frontiers, because Sonic Frontiers, we've talked a lot about the pre-release and how some of the marketing was pretty terrible for that game, and then
then they turned it around.
Well, I mean, they seem to, and I think a lot of
they did. There was a lot of shift and a lot of people going, all of a sudden, I really want this game.
Well, and that game sold a ton, and we'll talk about it a little later, but sold a ton over Black Friday. There were some really good deals on it. So tell us about Sonic Frontiers.
I bought it on release day because I was excited for it. It feels very much like a return to form because I'm of the generation of around the adventure game era.
Mm-hmm.
So Sonic Heroes was our first one, and I'm used to the story actually having some depth and impact. Which, don't get me wrong, I understand that it's a game for kids, and colors worked with their humor style, but I still think it's good to go back to actually caring about what happens to these characters. They actually put you through emotions, and they aren't afraid to put Sonic through the ringer in this one. He goes through a lot. And I just appreciate the depth of things. Because, like Alicia, I'm also very story-driven. I like a good plot.
And you feel like this one has a pretty strong plot?
Yes.
And
they've already announced free DLC in 3 different patches coming out next year for anyone that already has the game. Including new story content, and for the first time in a long time, we get to play other characters that aren't Sonic.
Yay!
that we actually know. I'm not talking about like the Avatar from Forces. We're going to be able to play Tails and Amy and Knuckles, and it's going to be so much fun.
So what's a good Sonic story? Like, what would you compare this one to as having a good comparable story? And no, Alicia, I don't mean that flippantly. I mean, like, honestly.
You know I was giving you the side eye.
I did get warned. I did get warned that you guys tended to give flack for Sonic.
I mean, we're not the only ones, but...
You're the ones that are currently in the situation to give me flack about Sonic. Let's put it that way.
But I mean, like, what is a good story? Is it Sonic Generations? Is it Sonic Adventure? Like, what would
Sonic
you compare
Adventure
this?
is good story. I like the Sonic Adventures. Sonic Generations is, I don't know if it's so much good story as it is just really good nostalgia value.
Yeah, I feel like Generations is really fan service.
It absolutely is fan service. The entire point of the game is going through old levels and old memories and re-experiencing stuff. And to be 100% fair, Frontiers does definitely reward you if you know your lore. It will make little comments and references, and especially actually with Adventure 1, it's good to know the story because it's important. It has an impact in this one.
That's good to know, because I feel like people generally know Adventure 2 a lot better than Adventure 1.
Oh, they definitely do, but this game doesn't have Shadow in it. So
That's such a bizarre thing. You have said that before, and that just blows my mind because I feel like so many people, I feel like more people played Sonic Adventure 1 than 2.
Really? I'm like...
I think they both get a lot of love, but the fact that Shadow came in 2,
Shadow and Rouge.
and people that are that are coming into these games haven't had a reason to look at 1 as much as they have in 2, because a lot of the characters that came in 2 stayed, whereas this is the first time in a long time we've seen Big.
That's true.
That's a shame.
And also, don't spoil it if it is, but I would be surprised if Chaos ever made a return. Different Chaos, but...
Yeah. No, that Chaos will definitely make a return.
That Chaos is totally going to show up in the next Sonic game.
Right? Exactly.
So, like, and the play, I mean, one of the problems with this game early in the marketing was that it was not clear at all how this game played. And they finally did get around to that in some of the marketing, the later trailers, of giving a much better idea for the style of the gameplay and everything. So,
I enjoy the gameplay. I truly do. I tend to, to give context, I don't always go for the A rank and the S rank. I have gone through all of the cyberspace levels and have only 2 left that I need to get S rank on. I am doing that not because the game requires it. There's no trophy, there's no awards. As soon as you get enough of the things that you need, you don't need to keep going in. I just like it. It's fun. And the open world is really good. The way that Sonic is, it's Sonic. He's built around speed, so it's really easy to move from place to place.
That's the thing, because the original marketing and early gameplay stuff, Sonic was very slow.
I know that, but
so they upped his speed.
They actually did something really cool, which you get to choose. They have a slidable adjust bar that when you first load up, and you can change it in the options to affect his max speed.
Okay.
So if you want to go slower, you can. If you don't, then yeah, it's really fun. And there's a lot of there's still a lot of nostalgia power in that the cyberspace levels are designed to be very similar, if not copies, level-wise, of old games. A lot of Unleashed, a lot of Adventure 2.
Do we get City Escape?
We do, actually.
Yay!
We don't get the song, unfortunately, but we do.
Wait, why would you even bother then?
Because they got all new music.
But if you do, but Escape from the City is the best.
I know, it's iconic. The thing that bothers me the most about the cyberspace isn't even the music. It's that even though the level plays the same way, like for example, when you're in Sonic Adventure 2 and you're running off you're trying to get off the island before it explodes.
Mm-hmm.
The level that they copy that level. The play is the same. I recognized it immediately because I played the living daylights out of it last month because I really like that level. But it's the visual is still designed via Green Hill. They have maybe like 4, 5 different visuals of throughout cyberspace. All the music is different in every single cyberspace level, but the visual I wish was a little more varied. We have your Green Hill, we have your general city layout, we have chemical plants, we have a few different things, but there's a lot that it's like, okay, well, this looks the same, but it plays different.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I'll give it credit. Those early trailers looked really bad. I felt like, and
it really shifted public perspective.
Yeah,
over time.
And I feel like the different people I've heard who have played it have been surprised at how positive they were. Like, not even me being surprised at them, but they were surprised how much they ended up liking the game. So, yeah, I mean, good for them.
And it's and Sega has outright stated that this is them seeing if this is the formula to go forward with, the same way that they did with Adventure. Mm-hmm. How it's like, okay, this is going to be what we're going to try and do going forward. So I'm looking forward to getting more of this because it's fun.
Well, and it's really interesting because I feel like this, we've talked before about like Sonic 06 just being an absolute dumpster fire, and I feel like the Sonic Frontiers journey has been the exact reversal of the Sonic 06 journey, where like when they first were marketing Sonic 06, everyone was so excited.
It was a big deal.
It looked phenomenal, and then we got the game and it was broken as all get out.
Yeah, that's what happens when they rush it out the door after splitting the team in half.
Yeah. And then this one, like, the marketing started and we were all like, oh, this is going to be a dumpster fire. And then they turned it around and it's like, hang on, this is actually phenomenal.
It is. It's a lot of fun. The story's great. The acting is really cool because I actually am enjoying that it's people that have been voicing these characters for a little while, but they're getting different voice direction. Like, Sonic's a little deeper than he has been before, and it's kind of it's this weird trippy state of mind where I'm like, but you're the same, but you're not.
Yeah.
And of course it's Sonic, so the music is phenomenal. I love this soundtrack so much. I've been listening to it at work all the time. Undefeatable has been going for like 3 hours.
All right, that sounds great. So a bit of a surprise. Sonic turns out to be actually a good game.
Surprise for some people, maybe.
I think a surprise to almost everyone after that first trailer came out.
Honestly, a surprise.
But everyone who continued tracking the journey is no longer surprised.
Honestly, the surprise is more like after how Forces turned out.
Yeah.
Forces did not do well.
Well, and I think that's been the problem with Sonic, is that it's been very uneven over the years. You'll get a good game, and then you get a game that's either very maudlin or it's just a train wreck like 06. And I don't think this is a mean thing to say about Sonic, but it has never had the consistency of, say, Mario or some other big franchises.
Well, and but also Mario tends to be, I say this not having played a lot of Mario games, to be fair, but it tends to not have any character depth as much as Sonic does, that I've found.
Yeah, I think that's fair, though. Like, the mainline Mario games aren't very story-driven.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, there are Mario games, like the Paper Mario games.
Yeah, and I know that there's the Mario RPG.
Yeah.
But just, like, as a general statement, I find Sonic tends to actually have more characterization rather than just, here's the 2 traits that make this character.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Have you played anything else?
The same thing I've been playing for years. I'm Final Fantasy XIV. Final Fantasy XIV is always fun. I enjoy that game a lot, and I get to play it with my friend who lives in New York, which is always a good time.
Which, for context, Amelia lives in Minnesota.
Yeah. I'm a very long distance away from there. It would be like a 20-plus hour drive.
Yeah.
I've met her in person once.
Did the two of you meet playing Final Fantasy XIV?
No, we actually met via fanfiction.
Oh.
Actually, I reviewed a story of hers, and she responded to my review, and we've been talking for 10 years.
Oh, cool.
We've never stopped.
So, Final Fantasy XIV,
It's the only online game that I play.
Okay.
I tend to be very cautious about online games just because how some of the communities can be a little toxic.
So, are you a Final Fantasy fan outside of 14?
Oh, yes. That's why she got me Heaven's Word back in the day, because we found out that we both liked Final Fantasy, and this was a way to play a game together. And she's like, you'll be fine. It'll be good. The community is actually really nice. There's very rarely any jerks. And I'm like, but I don't want to do this. And now I love this game. I love playing my character. I love being Bard. Bard is fantastic because I have range. Give me a bow and arrow and I'm a happy camper.
All right, that sounds great. What is the newest update to Final Fantasy XIV?
Right now we are in Endwalker. So there's the Endwalker post stuff.
Okay.
So right now we're actually dealing with some of the 4 fiends in Golbez, which is stuff from Final Fantasy IV.
Yeah, that's a reference I actually get.
Nice.
So.
Yeah, no, they do really cool. It's really cool the way that they bring stuff from old games and make it into stuff for this game.
Yeah.
Like they did the Crystal Tower back in the day from 3, and now they're doing. They've gone. There was the Omega fight patch back in Stormblood, and that had battles against both Exdeath and Kefka, and they words. Shadowbringers had stuff from 8. This has stuff from 4, and it's a lot of fun. And it's you get to fight the villains that you are generally aware of, but they make it as that this is part of this story. This is how it works.
Mm-hmm.
And Soken is an absolute master. His remixes of old tracks are amazing. I love his version of the 4 Fiends. It's so good.
All right. Cool. Yeah, I think it's been neat how they've really kind of turned that into a sort of metaverse of Final Fantasy games and bringing back elements from those. Because I know for me, like I had zero interest in Final Fantasy 14, and then when people are telling me they've got the Ghost Train in it,
yes, they do.
I'm like, oh, okay, that kind of gets my interest a little bit.
Yes, they do. They do have the Ghost Train. That's part of the Omega stuff as well.
Yeah. So, all right.
And it's also it's grown so much because especially relatively recently when Endwalker came out, a bunch of people from World of Warcraft were unhappy with what was coming out for that game. So they all moved. Then the stuff happened with Blizzard for Overwatch. Then all of those people came over. So it's the amount of players has basically blown up.
Right.
Again.
Yeah, because at one point they were not allowing new players to join because they were just so overwhelmed.
Because the systems were getting overrun.
Yeah.
Especially because Endwalker was brand new, and everyone that didn't play as actively and only played when new stuff came out was also trying to play, and it was just overloading the systems. The queue time was really, really bad. There was a time that Nicole and I were going to play, and I was in the queue, and it started me off at like 4,000 something.
Dang.
And then when I finally got to position 1, the internet dropped, so I had to start all over. We didn't play that day. We talked, but we didn't play.
I can imagine. All right, cool. So you've been playing Final Fantasy XIV and Sonic Frontiers?
Yep.
All right.
How about you?
Well, I've been playing a few things. A few of these are things that I've been playing and have talked about 2 weeks ago on the last episode, but I kind of wanted to do updates on. I've played some more of Atari 50. This is the Atari 50, the anniversary celebration, is I guess the subtitle to it. This is the game that brings together over 100 Atari games, starting from the earliest to all the way up through the Jaguar. This is just an amazing package. Now, there's nothing in here that if you just detest playing old games, there's nothing in here that's going to like win you over, I don't think.
No, Atari's too old of a system for that.
But it is just such a lovingly put together collection. I cannot think of another collection of games that has been done as well as this one, where I want people to experience it. Like I want other people to just try it out and see what it's like to walk through this game, because this is the same team that has in the past done things like the Mega Man collection, and more recently the Ninja Turtles collections, and so
those are fun.
They've always put great love into these games. They've always put they've gone out and gotten the historical documents and whatever video and that sort of stuff they could get. But this one is, entirely new interviews, but there's also archival interviews of, Nolan Bushnell in the 70s talking about these games.
Wow.
When they go in and you get to a new game, it's not just that you play the game, it also has information on the background. It has, marketing flyers that they were giving out to arcade operators about, hey, you should have Super Sprint in your arcade, and here's why. And that stuff is just amazing to look through and to look at. There's a game called Touch Me, which is basically Simon before Simon. Simon's the toy that people are more familiar with, match the pattern and everything. And Touch Me was doing that. And it was a little handheld, bigger than a cell phone, but a little handheld, and you would play it on that. It wasn't a game. It wasn't software. It was hardware. And so they recreate that in here.
Oh,
so
wow.
you can play it, and it assigns the buttons that you're hitting to the face buttons on a controller. But even cooler, on the Switch version, you can actually hit the button and it'll display it and turn on the touch screen, so you can actually use it like the actual original hardware.
Oh, that's so cool.
And so it's just little touches like that throughout the entire package, and they've gone in and they've remade some games or made some new games in the style of these Atari games, but like with updated graphics and the options that you might expect of a new game. So there's a tank battle game that's very much in the style of Combat on the original 2600, but it allows up to 4 players, and then it has all sorts of modifiers that you can turn on or off if you play it. It's just such an amazing package, and I made a post on Facebook that this is basically I teach a course in video games, and this is a large chunk of that course basically in a package. So I feel like don't tell my students that they could just go buy this game and skip the course. But it really is worthwhile. If you have any interest in kind of the history, the early days of video games and how a lot of these games came about, and of course it goes up through, the 2000s, because it has the Jaguar in here. It has the Atari Lynx, their 16-bit handheld. And it's just really a neat package. And if you have somebody in your life that is interested, especially like a young person who's really interested in video games and wants to know more about them, this is the best like video game history in a box that I've ever seen. So it's the equivalent of, if you know somebody who's really into film and wants to be a filmmaker, you go out and buy them a Criterion copy of a really good film, and you give them that, and then all the documentaries and everything on there will actually teach them a lot about the filmmaking process. I feel like this teaches you a lot about the game history, the game industry, and also some bit about design of games. Very early, simple games, but, still. So I really feel like it's a worthwhile package, and I strongly encourage people to pick that up.
That's really cool.
Let's see. I'm still playing Marvel Snap. OJ and Ryan and I, Monday, I guess it was, ran into each other, and we had a long discussion about Marvel Snap, which could have been an entire podcast unto itself. Marvel Snap continues to just be a really... I continue to be impressed with everyone I suggested to over Thanksgiving break. I was sitting at home, and my nephew was there. We had just finished eating lunch, and I said, "Hey, have you tried Marvel Snap?" And he said, "No. What is it?" And he said, "I heard people talk about it, but," he said, I wasn't interested." I said, "No, you might like it. You might try it." He was very skeptical of it for some reason. He assumed I was lying to him. I don't know why. And
You're messing with me.
Yeah, I think that was his thought. And so he did download it. And then like 2 hours later, he's coming up to me going, "Hey, I built this deck. And do you think this is a good deck?" And like, I keep running into this problem when I'm battling people. It's just such an accessible game. And that's the reaction I keep talking to people about, is how accessible it is. And once they get into it, it's not the sort of game that I think most people are going to play for 10 hours straight, though OJ, I think, may have done just that. But it is the sort of game that you can just pick up and play, right? You're waiting for the bus. You're waiting for class to begin. You have a few minutes to kill. You can play a couple quick rounds of it. And so to me, it is, just the perfect sort of mobile game, perfect phone game for that reason. So continue to be impressed with that. I played some more God of War. I continue to like that. I think I was a little harsh on it last episode when we talked about it. It had just come out. I hadn't played a whole lot.
Yeah.
I think it is a very, very good game. The biggest criticism I probably have of it, too, I do think the controls and the combat get a little convoluted at times. It's the sort of game that you can't take a few days away from, because when you come back, you feel like you have to relearn how to do all the combat.
Oh, okay.
And that can be a little frustrating. The other thing is, it's a little Joss Whedon-y in the dialogue at times.
Oh, yeah.
A little bit of the self-aware MCU sort of dialogue, and that can be done really well. Joss Whedon at his best, when he's not being a total,
jerkwad?
Yeah. Thank you. Jerkwad is the more appropriate term than what I was thinking of.
It's the PG version.
Yeah. It is the safe for public consumption version. Joss Whedon was really good at that kind of dialogue. And I think what often gets criticized is the people trying to imitate him in doing that dialogue. This is that at times. And when it is that, it's like, I didn't need that. But that's a minor criticism. Lots of games do that. This is a really, really solid game. And if you like the first God of War, you owe it to yourself to play it. The game I'm kind of excited to talk about is Soccer Story. I started playing this. This is has a very sort of 8-bit look. It's very like sort of voxel design, so everything's made up of little blocks. Mm-hmm. And it is a very simple soccer game. So think sort of NES or even Super Nintendo style soccer game. You're using, I think, 3 buttons to control it for the most part, and one of the shoulder buttons. And so the actual soccer is fine. is really fun, but like it's, it's certainly not FIFA. Don't go into it expecting that. But I think what's really interesting is a role-playing game. And so,
Really?
Yeah, it's like the game starts off, the world has been destroyed. That
is not the start I would expect to a soccer game.
No.
It is a soccer match where the calamity happens. So Calamity Ganon shows up. No, Ganon does not show up, but it does describe it. I think the term they actually do use is calamity. And you find out that Miss Business is behind this, and Miss Business wants to destroy soccer so that she controls all of soccer, which...
So it's Space Jam.
Yeah, sort of. Or it is FIFA. It is literally FIFA. It is the people who control the soccer organization called Soccer Inc. are the bad guys of this game. So it is literally like not FIFA the game, FIFA the organization, which is corrupt and evil. This is a game that seems, at least so far, what I'm into, mocking them. And you wake up and soccer has been banned, and you can choose to be this little boy or little girl that are twins, and you have to go around and accomplish these tasks. And one of the first tasks is finding this mysterious soccer ball, and then you use it to knock trash cans upright and to find these secret goals this guy has painted with pink paint on walls and everything. This is all done in sort of an overheads, a Link to the Past sort of style to it and everything. And it's very cute and charming. I don't know how long it can sustain that, because I will say that the dialogue is not particularly clever, which, I feel like nowadays with these sorts of role-playing games, you kind of want that funny, clever dialogue. And, and I know I just criticized for the Joss Whedon style dialogue, but there is a happy medium in between there. And this doesn't have a whole lot of that so far, but I'm not very far into it. I'm not much into the story. It's just very charming. It's a fun little game.
Is this one PC or?
It is on PC and consoles. I'm not sure what all consoles it is on. I played it as part of Game Pass. So it is on Xbox. It is on PC. I gotta imagine this is on Switch. Nothing I've seen so far would be undoable on Switch. It's not that sort of game, you know. So it seems like the perfect style of game for Switch, though. Actually, very early on, one of the things first thing your mom asks you to do is, hey, go pull those carrots up out of the ground, and you do that by doing a soccer slide, and you slide over them, and that knocks them out of the ground, and then you go turn them into your mom. So it's that sort of kind of goofiness.
Yeah.
This is giving me kind of Earthbound vibes, too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like any sort of RPG that has that sort of cute, fun comic style is very much, hewing back to Earthbound these days. Mm-hmm. So, it's very much in that kind of tradition.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Sucker Story, I have played a little bit of it. I'm going to keep playing it. I think particularly on the Switch or something, on a handheld feels like the right way to play this game. Check that out. Let's get into the news. I don't actually have this listed on here because I left it off for some insane reason, but I think the biggest news of the week is we got a new Mario movie trailer.
Yay.
So, Alicia, I know we've talked a little bit about this. This is a full trailer. We actually get a more extended dialogue of everybody's favorite, Chris Pratt Mario.
We really don't get more extended dialogue from him, though. We do from everybody else.
We get more than 2 words, which is, I think, all we got in that first trailer. But
That's true. We get 3. We get a wahoo.
We do get a wahoo.
I think there's a let's go.
Yeah, there's a let's go at the beginning, which somebody pointed out, I was listening to, pointed out how ridiculous it is. Let's go is because he's Italian.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense. I would never say let's go. And they are not playing up the Italian part. They're playing him with a Brooklyn accent. So
Yeah.
it sounds really weird.
Let's go.
Right, because nobody says that. Like, that's
What
not
are you talking about? I say that to my students every day. Every day when we start class, I'm like, all right, let's go.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's weird.
It's so weird.
But, Chris Pratt aside, we get some Donkey Kong for the first time in this. We get Luigi more in this than
Luigi gets some actual dialogue instead of just screaming.
Right, and Luigi seems to be the damsel in distress in this.
That doesn't surprise me from Luigi.
Yeah.
He does tend to end up in situations.
Yeah.
That's how Luigi's Mansion happens, is he ends up being in a very scared situation.
Yeah.
Although Mario's actually the damsel in that one.
Right. And so they do that. We get Peach as being more of a tough character. So speaking of strong female characters, we get Peach actually doing some things in this.
I mean, I do see where, like, obviously we've talked before about some of the really kind of icky stuff with how weak Peach has been. I don't know that this was the way to go.
She did have one game, I remember, back in the day.
Yeah, but, like,
Right, where her power was crying.
Yeah,
I was going to say, but
crying.
But it wasn't very flattering. No.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know if... I would have preferred, I think, to see them also bring in Daisy if they wanted to do that, because Daisy is much more of the tomboy, like, let me go beat somebody up and save my boyfriend Luigi.
Well, and I think part of it is, too, like, they really sort of Black Widowed her in this, right? Like, so they put her in the jumpsuit and everything, and it's like, well, we can't have her in a dress. And it's like, well, I don't know. In Mario 2, she's one of the heroes, and she's in her dress, and, like, that's the Mario world. And,
yeah.
I mean, it doesn't matter if she's in the dress or not, but everybody else is in their normal costumes, so. Well,
and it feels a little like what we were talking about earlier with, the 90s and early 2000s, the strong female character was really just written to be completely defeminized. And so it feels a little like, if Cinderella's the pinnacle of Disney princess, Peach is the pinnacle of video game princess.
Yeah.
That's true.
And so we have to take away her dress to make her strong. It's like, do we? Like, can we have her be strong and also still like pink and dresses? Just a thought.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see,
I think if it was a different company, I would have more faith in them, but Illumination has done this so much that I just don't have faith in Illumination to give any nuance to Peach in that way.
Yeah. I think it looks fine as like a kid's film. Like, I think kids will enjoy this from what they've shown so far. I think for me, and I made this comment when we were talking about it online when it came out, that there's part of me that sort of wants this to be the 80s fantasy film vibe. Like, I want these characters to go on an actual adventure.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
I want them to make a journey, because to me, that's what the pinnacle of the Mario games. I always think Super Mario World is just about...
Your brother is in another castle.
Well, I just think, like Super Mario World is just about a perfect game. And if you're going to back that up with another Mario game, it's probably Super Mario Brothers 3. And both of those games feel like you are going on a journey.
Yeah.
And I worry that this film won't capture that, because I think that's part of the joy of those games. They do show at one point, like, Peach is looking over a world map, and it's like the map from Super Mario World. And so, like...
There's also the penguins.
Yeah.
The ice penguins.
So maybe they'll get to it. Maybe that will be part of it. But to me, that's essential in a way that is not as essential, like, in the Sonic film. It's okay that Sonic doesn't go on a big journey, because that's less to me of the the importance of Sonic. And to me, in the Mario games, it's very much like you're going on this giant adventure and exploring. And so I hope that's included. But yeah, the trailer doesn't make that entirely clear.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll see.
I think you've hit the nail on the head with, like, it feels very much like a kid's movie. Whereas, you know, you take, like, the Sonic films, and you can actually still enjoy those as an adult, because there is a lot of really good, entertaining stuff in there. I'm gonna see this. I'm gonna see the Mario movie. I'm rooting for Bowser to win.
Jack Black, baby.
Yeah, but I don't know that, like, I feel like the Mario movie will be one that I watch once and go, okay, that was good. And then I'll, like, look at the IMDb page for all the Easter eggs, but I won't be like, oh, I want to watch it again versus even like Wreck-It Ralph. I watched that movie over and over and over to catch all of the different Easter eggs that I possibly could.
Right.
And I feel like this is going to be a movie that I watch once and go, okay, that was a good, like, hour and a half of my life, and move on.
Yeah, and it feels like Mario is so defining in video games. It feels like Mario in other media should be just as defining.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to take Mario and make a movie, it should not just be okay. It should be like a really good movie.
Yeah.
Especially since now we've got some video game movies that are really good movies.
Yeah, I mean, or at least passable for a change. Because for so long, the movies were just terrible. And
For so long, a video game movie equaled bad.
Right.
Yeah.
And we have at least had a sort of shift in that in recent years.
Yeah, we've had Detective Pikachu, we've had Sonic, we've had Uncharted.
Right. Well, we'll find out. I believe April is the release date for that. So,
Something like that.
I guess we'll find out soon enough how the Mario movie actually turns out.
The Super Mario Brothers
Movie.
I was
We'll
always
say this, though. The orchestral remix of the Mario theme does sound great.
It does, actually.
I do, and I have enjoyed the music in the trailers. So for all the flack we give it, it does have one redeeming quality.
Right. Yeah. Well, give them that.
I was always more of a Luigi girl anyway.
Well, he does have a part in this. It looks like he has his own sort of storyline where he's off on his own.
If nothing else, we can expect something different from him than we get from Mario.
There'll probably be a Luigi edit after this film comes out. Where people edit out Mario and just the Luigi parts.
Oh, it's the Super Mario Brothers, the Luigi cut.
Yeah. All right, let's see. God of War Ragnarok came out, became the fastest selling first-party PlayStation game ever. 5.1 million copies in 5 days. So those first 5 days, basically selling 1 million copies a day, which is pretty impressive for any game to be doing that.
That's really big. That's really big.
Yeah, when you think it's the best-selling PlayStation game or fastest-selling PlayStation game ever, that's a long history.
Yeah.
So I mean,
it is.
You know, that's in comparison to things that you would think of as even an easier sell, like Spider-Man, and
Yeah.
this that's an impressive accomplishment.
It is
good for God of War. However, it was quickly overshadowed by Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, which now, in fairness, those are 2 games, but most people aren't buying 2 copies, at least initially. And so they combined to sell 10 million copies in 3 days. It is the fastest selling Nintendo game ever.
Even if you were to break that and say, okay, say Scarlet sold half and Violet sold half, that's still 5 million copies in 3 days versus 5 million copies in 5 days for God of War.
Hey, and like we were talking about earlier, there's been a lot of Pokemon games this year, more than we traditionally get in a given year. And the fact that there's still this much interest for a new Pokemon game, late into the lifespan of the Switch, right? Like the Switch probably doesn't have more than another year or 2 in its lifespan, and Pokemon is still selling this well.
Yeah.
Like people, I know we've talked about this before, I think on air. I remember Pokemon becoming popular back when I was in high school. That's like the first time Pokemon, like I saw anybody with Pokemon cards or the games came out. And it was one of those things where you went, yeah, okay, well, this will pass. Like, this is a fad. People aren't going to be collecting Pokemon cards 20 years from now. And it's only grown.
And see, sorry, Justin, I'm about to age you right now, but Blue version was my first video game ever.
And Silver was mine.
No, I understand.
Yeah, I was 5.
We each got it for Christmas that year.
Yeah. And so, like, for me, I'm like, it's like, Pokemon for me is like how Harry Potter is. It's something where our generation grew up with. Harry Potter were the books that saved reading for a lot of people. Pokemon is the card game, the cartoon, the game that was what you did. It really defined our generation almost.
It really, truly did.
No, I mean, I understand that. It constantly amazes me because it feels like so many things of that style, that nature came and passed, right?
Digimon,
Like
Yu-Gi-Oh! Yu-Gi-Oh's still kind of around.
Yu-Gi-Oh has not passed.
But I mean, Power Rangers and Transformers and like all these things that are popular kind of hit their peak, and then they trail off, and they maybe don't entirely disappear, but they're never as big as they once were.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Pokemon it's had a few ebbs and flows, but each time it comes back, it seems like it's even bigger than it was before.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, the fact that you can put out Arceus and you can put out this and you can put out Snap all in the same year, and all of them are selling millions of copies. In the case of Arceus and this, selling, over 10 million copies each. Like, that's a pretty amazing achievement.
Yeah.
And, like that was the first 3 days. Probably by the end of the holidays, this game will have topped 20 million copies, which is just, very few games hit 20 million copies.
I'll say I bought it about a week after it came out, or 5 days or something like that, because it came out Friday. I bought it Monday, and when I went to Walmart, they were completely out of Violet. I had to drive to the Target 20 minutes away to get Violet.
You wanted Violet, not Scarlet.
I did.
Yeah, so, I mean, an amazing achievement. Certainly the popularity of Pokemon is not fading. Certainly Nintendo is still doing quite well for itself if it can sell that many. Obviously, Splatoon 3, we talked about earlier, selling 3 million copies in Japan in its initial release period. That game has sold a ton of copies. I think that's the thing that Nintendo continues to do at a level that no one else in the game industry is doing. Like, yeah, they don't put out a lot of games, but when those games come out, they're selling 20 million copies each.
Yeah.
I mean, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, is approaching 50 million copies sold. And
It's just mind-blowing.
yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think about how much they sell of these games. And it's not just one game. It's every game they put out, just about. So good for Nintendo. Good for Pokemon fans.
They're in one of the big companies for this long for a reason.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Let's see. We're going to jump around some of these because we're running a little late on time. Netflix is developing a AAA PC shooter at an LA studio headed by the former Overwatch lead.
Netflix is really just trying to do this game thing.
Yeah, I feel like we've been talking about this every other episode. We come back and are like, hey, Netflix just bought another studio. Hey, Netflix. And it was one of those things where you kind of felt like, yeah, they're going to make some phone games. And Netflix says, no, we're in this big time. We think this is part of our future in a significant way.
Good luck to them.
That's what I feel like. I'm like, this should be a fad, right? Like Netflix getting into gaming. This is weird to me.
Well, and it so often is when these other media companies are like, we're going to dabble in video games. And I mean, who knows how this will pan out? but they seem to be serious. You know, they're getting serious people to come in and work on this. So this doesn't seem like a half-hearted project, at least from the outside.
Oh, we'll see what happens.
Good luck to them. I'm not really much of a shooter game person anyway, but hey, if it works, then good for them.
Yeah. Let's see. Xbox is the best-selling game console over Black Friday. So the Series X and the Series S were the best-selling game consoles. The Series S, they had that thing down to, I think it was $220 plus a $40 gift card at one point.
Dang.
Which is
that would help.
That's a pretty amazing price for that system.
That would definitely help getting some people buy it.
And then I think also Microsoft just had those in stock. They just had Xboxes. They planned for that so that Black Friday, if you went into a store, you could actually pick one up and walk out of the store with it. And
that's the one thing that PlayStation 5 has been hurting with, is that they just don't have enough.
Yeah, and it's kept Xbox very much close. Like, you try to think if PlayStation had unlimited consoles at launch, they would be significantly ahead of Xbox at this point. And and I think they are ahead, but not as significantly as they could have been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that whole supply chain issue. Their chip, there's a chip that they use that is just hard for them to get their hands on.
Yeah. Let's see. They have announced Starship Troopers Extermination is a 12-player co-op game coming in early access in 2023. The thing that really kind of excited me about this is based on the film. This is not them making a Starship Troopers game based on the movie or the book.
Oh, really? It's on the film.
Yeah, so this is...
So it's going to be a hot mess.
So would you like to know more? It's very much in the trailer for this. And, if you're not familiar with the Starship Troopers film, it's kind of an older film at this point, but like it's very much a satire of like war films and everything. And so...
And it's bad.
Oh, no, it's fantastic because it is a satire and it is like making fun of it. I think Starship Troopers is a great movie. Paul Verhoeven is a genius with those sorts of movies. But yeah, so, this is kind of interesting, but it's also an old property. So this is, at this point, Starship Troopers, the film is 30 years old. So I'm not sure who the audience for this is because I'm pretty sure my nephews have never heard of Starship Troopers.
Yeah, this feels like when they were like, oh, the Garbage Pail Kids thing did really well. Well, what else can we bring back?
I'm not sure how well that did, but...
Or like when they're like, oh, we're going to do a racing movie. It's going to be Gran Turismo.
Yeah.
These property names that, there's an audience for that, but...
But is there enough of an audience for
that?
Yeah, I think
where is it going to make sense in this, actually?
I get what you're saying, because it's one of those situations where it feels like we want to make this multiplayer shooter. What property can we get the rights to?
Yeah.
And, we can get the rights to Starship Troopers relatively cheap. Okay, we'll slap that on there. And in fairness, like that look of that film and the designs are very sort of iconic. They stand out. They're very recognizable. But...
why are we making it Starship Troopers?
Yeah, how many people are clamoring for that as a game? And again, like I really like the movie, but also, is any of that satire really going to come through in the finished game? Or is it just going to be a multiplayer shooter?
Yeah.
And that's harder to say. Let's see. Spanish theme park Port Aventura World is building an Uncharted themed dark ride roller coaster.
I would really, really like to ride that.
So if you're not familiar, dark ride is generally an inside ride and everything. So, think of
Space Mountain?
Yeah, Space Mountain. But like oftentimes a dark ride will be themed in some ways, where Space Mountain, there's not a whole lot of theming once you're on the actual ride. So yeah, this is kind of interesting, like an Uncharted roller coaster. I don't know that that's the first video game property I would associate with making a roller coaster. But if it's a more traditional dark ride, where you're riding through different rooms and seeing different things, that fits more with Uncharted. So it'll be interesting to see with that label of roller coaster, what this actually turns out to be.
Do we know when that's going to be finished and out there for the public?
I don't think they announced a date with it.
Okay.
They just said it is coming, but not an official date. So maybe they're just not sure yet at this point. Let's see. Disney Dreamlight Valley is adding Stitch. So everybody's favorite character, Stitch, is finally coming to that game. And by the way, I don't mean that facetiously. I actually really like Stitch.
I remember when the game first came out, and you were like, "I want to play it for Stitch."
Yeah,
that was.
How do you make that game and not include Stitch? It would be like not including the Frozen girls. Elsa and Anna should be in there as well, which they are. But
I know Kristoff's in it. I didn't know if Elsa and Anna were.
I'm pretty sure they're in there. I don't know.
It's funny because when it first came out, and we talked about this when you kind of fell off of it, of when it first came out, everybody was playing it. And then I feel like I haven't seen anybody play it since 2 weeks after release.
Yeah.
It's one of those fever dream games. Did I imagine it or not?
It is, it is an Animal Crossing game. That's what it wants to be, but with Disney characters. And I feel like it very much will appeal to kids. Mm-hmm. I feel like for adults, for me, there wasn't enough to keep me coming back to it. And so...
But will you come back now that they're adding Stitch?
I can play Stitch in other places. I don't know that that's enough to get me to come back and play much of it. I do like Stitch, but I don't know if that's enough to get me back playing this game. But we'll see. Let's see. 3 developers from Rare, including 2 of these names I at least know were music composers, have released a video game Christmas song. So Rare trio Grant Kirkhope, David Wise, and Kevin Bayliss have released a video game Christmas song called A Video Gaming Christmas. So very clever with the title, guys.
So unique, much original.
Yeah, and it is now available across multiple platforms. So Spotify, Apple Music, and other things. We are going to try to play a little bit of this here on the podcast. So we're going to see if this works, because this is right now connected to my phone to play this. We'll see how this works.
Do.
When the snow was falling, I was just a 10-year-old, waiting patiently till morning came. It was Christmas so long ago, always dreaming of something cool from up above. Now I'm older, how can I receive the holidays I used to love? Here comes family, here's festivity, here's my Christmas cheer. Oh, it's so lovely, someone give to me the one thing I held near for all my younger years. I want a video game for Christmas. I need a video game for Christmas. I need a video game and Christmas with you. I want a video game for Christmas. I need a video game for Christmas. I won't get no retro Christmas till I do.
All right, we won't play the whole song there because we will probably get copyright strike if we do. But I did want to play a little bit of it there. What are your reactions? Does this sound like a new Christmas classic for you?
So I gotta admit, we listened to it before coming on the podcast today because I saw it on the news and I was like, this sounds amazing. I think it's a very fun, catchy little song, similar to the title. The lyrics are not particularly creative, but it's cute, it's fun. I put it in my Christmas playlist because I always need new Christmas songs. And I think it's one of those, I'm sitting here kind of bopping my head back and forth the whole
You're
time.
mouthing the words already, so
Well, that's because they're easy.
I know, but still.
Yeah, but I think it's a nice little Christmas song. You know, I don't know that I could see everybody and their brother covering it, but
This is not like Mariah Carey has nothing to worry about.
no.
She'll still dominate Christmas.
Yeah, Mariah Carey, Michael Bublé, you're good. This is not a threat to you. But it's a fun little Christmas song. I think it's going to be a nice addition to my playlist to just get something different in there every once in a while versus having 17 different covers of simply having a wonderful Christmas time and have yourself a merry little Christmas and all that.
Yeah.
I enjoy it. It's not my favorite video game song, and it's not my favorite Christmas song, but it's not bad, and I still like listening to it.
It's got a beat to it. Like, you can tell these are real musicians. I feel like, you
Yeah.
know, if you get online and type in video game music into Spotify, you end up with a lot of, like, somebody just made this in their bedroom, and it's pretty terrible.
Sounds
So-
like it should be on SoundCloud instead.
Right. Yeah. This isn't Buckner and Garcia's Pac-Man Fever where, like, you know, you can dance to it. But yeah, it's got a good beat to it. I think the lyrics are pretty generic, which is kind of disappointing about it. I feel like, you know, if you're going to do a game or a song about video games at Christmas, like, you know, talk about like getting a Super Nintendo for Christmas or talk about, you know, something.
Throw in some titles, throw in some references.
Yeah, give us some Easter eggs. I know it's a Christmas song, but give us Easter eggs.
We demand Easter in our Christmas. There's just something sacrilegious about that, so please don't think too heavily about it.
Oh man.
Yeah, so check that out. It's on Spotify, it's on Apple Music, and you can also buy it through different digital platforms.
It's on YouTube.
Yeah, of course it is. It'll be on YouTube when this episode goes up, at least a
As
little
of
part
this
of
moment, their YouTube channel only had 101 subscribers. So thanks to me, they have 102. So get on the hype train before it blows up.
Well, this trio have called themselves Retrofusion.
Yeah.
And I didn't look. Did they have other music up on there?
This is their first video they've uploaded.
Okay, so yeah.
This is a brand new channel. That's why I'm saying go out and subscribe before the hype gets built up and they have 100K subscribers.
Well,
and then you can say, I was there first.
The implication here is that they might do more video game music. And so maybe we will get an Easter.
I want a video game for Easter.
But see, then you have to like reference adventure at that point. If you're going to do a video game Easter song, you have to reference adventure, which is where the term Easter egg comes from for video games.
Yup.
There we go.
So, yeah, that's cool. So check that song out and everything. I think that's covered most of the news. So let's get to our big question of the week. And next Thursday is the Video Game Awards, which is, I guess, fair to say is the biggest video game award show of the year. There's a few different ones competing, but this is the most public-facing one, at least. And they have released the categories and everything. You can go on their website and you can actually vote for your favorites and everything. But for
There's a player's voice one, yeah.
yeah. And so I thought it'd be fun to at least go through a few of these categories and kind of pick who we think the winners will be. So this is not what we think necessarily deserve the awards, but what we think which game will actually win these particular awards. We will actually talk about our favorite games of the year, but that's going to be a later podcast when everybody can be here and we can have some time to plan for it.
Your
Except
regulars.
Amelia.
Your regulars will be here.
Amelia won't be here.
Yeah, Amelia won't be here, but maybe Amelia can also pass along her favorite games of the year to us as well, so we can have multiple people weighing in.
That will be our video game Christmas.
Yeah, we will be playing that song the entire time as we pick these until, it'll be on a constant loop until we all lose our minds. All right, well, let's start off with Game of the Year. The nominees are A Plague Tale Requiem, Elden Ring, God of War Ragnarok, Horizon Forbidden West, Stray, and Xenoblade Chronicles 3. So given these nominations, and we should note that the Game Awards does have a cutoff date, which if your favorite game isn't nominated anywhere in here, it may be that it came out too late in the year. But given the nominations here, which one of these games do you think wins their Game of the Year?
I think it's got to be Elden Ring. You know, when that came out, it didn't matter. I've never played Elden Ring. I've never watched anyone play it, but my entire YouTube feed, my entire Twitch feed was Elden Ring. I feel like it's going to be that.
Yeah, I would agree. I'd be really shocked if anything else won it this year. I think God of War is probably the only real competition for it, but that game has gotten very solid reviews, but not crazy fawning reviews for it. So
If we're going the one that we actually think it's going to be, then yeah, Elden Ring. But part of me wants Stray. Just because that was one that was also popping up in my feed a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Stray will maybe win in some other categories or at least get some recognition. So
It was pretty popular when it came out.
Yeah.
yeah. Best indie game, the nominees are Cult of the Lamb, Neon White, Sifu, Stray, and Tunic. So which do you think wins
The
of this?
only reason I am saying Sifu is because that's the one that's still in the Players' Voice Awards in the running, because I don't actually know what any of those games are.
This one, I feel like...
Aside from Stray.
I feel like this could go either way. It could go Stray. It could also go Cult of the Lamb. I feel like that one really blew up. And that's another one, you know. Stray, I saw a lot of people playing when it first came out.
Right.
Cult of the Lamb, I still see a lot of people playing.
Yeah, this one is hard because I feel like all these games have had their moment, but it's sort of like the Oscars. If you released earlier in the year, does that hurt your chances? Because whatever is the sort of new hotness is what everyone's going to vote for.
Yeah.
And so you look at games like Tunic and Sifu. Does it hurt them being released so much earlier in the year? Even Stray and Neon White, you know, those were kind of summer games. Cult of the Lamb is probably the most recent. And yeah, it's held some of that. So I think probably I could see Neon White, but that may be just people I know have been really into that. But I feel like its moment has passed because it's a run-based game and, you know, it's a time attack game where you're competing against other people, and it feels like its time has passed. So maybe it will be Stray or Cult of the Lamb. Mm-hmm. I think Stray of all those earlier games probably has the most staying power just because
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I don't think it's the best game, but I think it has the most staying power in people's minds. Best family game. We have Kirby and the Forgotten Land, Lego Star Wars, The Skywalker Saga, Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope, Nintendo Switch Sports, and Splatoon 3. So this is a very Nintendo-heavy category.
To no one's surprise.
Yeah. This one...
I know what one you like.
Yeah, I mean... But we're not talking about what ones we like. We're talking about which ones we think are going to win. I feel like this one might go... As much as I would love for it to be Kirby and the Forgotten Land, I feel like with how big Splatoon 3 was, I feel like it could be Splatoon 3.
That would be my guess.
Yeah, I think you might be right. The only thing I would say is, Switch Sports and Splatoon 3 are very sort of, more of the same to some degree of, sequels.
Yeah,
whereas
that's fair.
Kirby and the Forgotten Land is an entirely, it's our first 3D Kirby.
Yeah. I would love to see it be Kirby and the Forgotten Land. Please prove me wrong.
The Skywalker Saga is an entirely new take on those Lego games. That a lot of people responded very positively to. And even Mario and Rabbids is a sequel, but it's a sequel that kind of throws out the original game and goes in kind of a new direction with it. I mean, it's still a strategy game, but a different kind of interaction. So I could see one of those three winning. I guess I'm going to go for Kirby. I think Kirby might win this because I think people like to reward non-sequels sometimes.
Let Justin be right on this. I want Kirby to win.
Best multiplayer game: Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, Multiverses, Overwatch 2, Splatoon 3, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge.
For this, my guess is either Splatoon or it might be the Turtles, because it might just be the circles I run in, but I saw a lot for the Turtles.
That's a very, very good game, that Turtles game.
Yeah, no, I've heard a lot of praise for that, and it's on my to-play list.
Again, I could see the Turtles because it harkens back to those old arcade games, and lots of people have very good reactions to that game. And I could also see Multiverses winning this.
I'm thinking for this one, I'm thinking Multiverses, because that just continued to get bigger and bigger.
And it's a new game.
It's
right?
a new game.
It's not another sequel.
It's not like, we've talked before about how some of the Super Smash Bros. Knockoffs isn't the word I want to use, but like the Nickelodeon one is very dead.
Right.
Whereas Multiverses has so much character to it. I feel like Multiverses has this one.
Yeah, I think it probably wins. It depends who's voting. It is game critics and stuff that vote, and so a lot of those people might be older and kind of be like me, and like Shredder's Revenge really reminds us of playing that original arcade game. So I think it's one of those two, but I think I would probably lean more towards Multiverses winning this one. I think you're probably right on that. Next category is Best Debut Indie, and the nominations are Neon White, Norco, Stray, Tunic, and Vampire Survivors.
This one I think Stray has in the bag. I know.
I haven't even heard of the other ones, honestly. Stray's the only one that I recognize the title.
Yeah. I mean, I remember, Justin, when you were playing Tunic, how much you really enjoyed it. And Vampire Survivors, of course, has been a topic of conversation. But I feel like this one Stray has.
I think Vampire Survivors maybe is the most deserving because it actually sort of gave life to an entire new genre of games. It's not the first one to do that, but it is the one that broke through. Mm-hmm. And so I feel
you're quite possibly right. I don't know.
Yeah, but I could see something more conventional winning, and I think that would be a real shame if it did. All 5 of these are good games, though, so it's not like there's a bad game nominate here. So
it's not like there's one that you're like, gosh darn it.
No, I mean,
why is that even here?
Stray and Tunic, I think, probably are the most likely to win. But, the Vampire Survivors, I just don't know. Because there's a whole lot of people who still haven't played that game, but it's also been wildly popular. That was the best-selling game on Steam for a long time.
Yeah.
So, because it was so cheap. It was $3 for the longest time. Last category, Best Adaptation, and this is adaptation into other media, television or film. So the nominations are Arcane, League of Legends, Cyberpunk, Edge Runners, The Cuphead Show, Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Remember, this is what you think will win, not what you want to win.
I know.
And Uncharted.
I would see it probably being Arcane because that everyone was talking about it for months. Everyone was talking about it. People are still talking about it, at least where I hang out.
Yeah, that's probably my prediction too. I'm thinking, because even like watching people play Cuphead, I don't see people talking about the Cuphead show. I feel like Uncharted really just kind of came and went.
I feel like that was disappointing to a lot of people, that film.
Yeah.
The Uncharted film.
Yeah, I think even people who liked it were still disappointed. That's my reaction to it. Like, even though I thought it was...
Honestly, it slipped past me. I haven't watched it yet.
My reaction was sort of, it's fine.
Yeah.
But it's disappointing. It's not the Uncharted movie I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I would lean Arcane League of Legends for winning this one.
Yeah, I will say about the Cuphead show, people I know with kids really like that show, and their kids really like it.
I have seen some chatter about it, but not nearly as much.
Yeah, so I think Arcane is probably the most likely to win out of there. But we were just talking about adaptations, and that in recent years we've actually been getting good ones, and none of these really. I mean, Uncharted's probably the worst on this list, and it's okay. Like as a movie to watch on like a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah.
It's not a waste of 2 hours.
Well,
As opposed to like the original Mario movie.
It's certainly not as bad as that, right? Like it's disappointing to fans. I get that, but it's not a train wreck of a movie. Like there's some enjoyment to be gotten out of it.
Okay.
And the rest of these, I feel like people actually really like in one form or another. So
I would agree with that. I
don't feel like we've ever had that in video games before.
Yeah.
This sort of year for adaptation. So, all right. Well, that does it for our predictions. Again, that show is next Thursday. It'll be streamed live online and everything. So check out the Game Awards. There's always big announcements that come out of that. So next Friday when we're recording this podcast, we'll probably be talking about new games that got announced at the Game Awards. So that'll be exciting.
Including 17 more farming games.
I don't know if any of the farming game people will spend the money to get into the Game Awards, but you never know because we're seeing so many of those farming games. I'm just expecting like some spinoff, like Sonic Farming or something.
Oh, man.
You might get a Sonic fishing game. You might.
Oh, man. Give me a Big the Cat fishing game. I would play that.
Truthfully, I do actually find the Big the Cat fishing mini game really relaxing in Frontiers.
Well, I haven't played Frontiers, but it was in Sonic Adventure.
Yeah,
so
I
Someone jump on that for a mobile game.
I could see that.
yeah, that seems like something Sega should do. Lots of microtransactions and all sorts of outfits you can buy for Big the Cat.
Froggy hat.
All right, that does it for this week's show. Amelia, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. We've enjoyed having you here. You're always welcome to come back and join us again. I guess next time Alicia has a big show, we can expect to have you back.
Try to make it happen. We'll see. We'll see if I pull off another big show.
I mean, even if you don't, I'll still visit you.
But yeah, this is it's been fun getting back and everything. And of course, the end of the semester rapidly approaching. One more week of classes and then finals. So we'll be back with at least probably one more episode before we all head out for Christmas break. And then, as I said, we haven't really talked about this in depth, but we are going to do something for Game of the Year. Our picks, let you know what our favorite games of the year have been. And we'll probably do that after Christmas, after everybody has some time to sit and think, because everybody's running into finals at full speed, and I don't want to give anybody extra work to do right now. So I think that'll be a lot less stressful when we get back from Christmas break. But thank you, as always, for tuning in and listening. You can always check out more at salukigames.com. You can obviously get this podcast on whatever podcasting platform you prefer. We appreciate you listening, and we'll be back next week with a new episode.